Hello all. This is not a video I was expecting to make, but this is something I believe I should make prior to leaving Roblox. But before we start, I would like to say this. I do not like making drama videos like this, and I do not plan or want to drag this out more than it needs to be. Most of the time, when videos like this are made, it leads to a lot of harassment and hate towards certain individuals that is just completely unnecessary. So, I'd like to say if you are prone to harassing others or generally just act like the average Twitter user, I suggest you do not watch this video and leave it, as this video was not created to be viewed by people like you. Do not go out of your way to talk or mock the individual this video is about either. That is also extremely disgusting and something I would never support. Do not say things or do things on my behalf, as you will not be respected or liked at all for doing so. With that out of the way, I think now is a good time to explain some basic information. It starts some time prior to December 2024 with the old Roblox message system. Back then, prior to asking people for towers and DMs, I asked for permission to use towers in Roblox messages, which was seen by a certain individual who accepted and allowed me to use their towers in my fan game. I said I eventually talked to him in DMs on Discord, starting at December 2007. During the time span from December 2007 to April 2025, we rarely talked. We are not friends at all, and honestly, neither of us know each other. I never took time to get to know him as a person, nor did he take time to get to know me as a person. Even as I'm saying this, I will say that I do, do not know him as a person despite of how he's acted online, as we were never friends, and I don't truly know anything about him. And as such, same applies to him. He does not know me. However, our interactions come to change for the worse, as in August 2005, I removed his tower from my game as he has Soul Crushing Towers. Ultimately, when it comes to it, there were a lot of factors at play, which I will discuss more in depth later in the video, but I will say this. I believe what I did was ultimately a mistake and something I shouldn't have just done. As such, prior to continuing the story, I would like to quickly take accountability for this and the way I acted. I do want to talk about more about why exactly I acted this way. I did dur- during the time span between the tower's removal and our confrontation. But for that, I will be giving more information later rather than just using that as excuses. With that, I want to say that I handled this situation poorly, and I now acknowledge that I could have done this better. With this removal, he got mad and talked bad about me publicly. On this day, I wasn't prepared to deal with something like this due to stuff relating to private matters, which will discuss more in depth later in the video. And as such, when I confronted him, I acted very emotionally and generally irrational at the time. I do believe I could have handled this better, and doing this to someone was a mistake. After this, after that, we have yet to talk to each other since directly. However, I have tried to reach out through a friend he had at the time to make amends. With this, you might have thought I might have been able to make amends with this individual and move past this, but no. In the mind of the person who I removed the tower, they have used this to try to get me deplatformed entirely and removed from eTel, as well as constantly talk behind my back and make assumptions of my character when the only experience he had with me is me handling this situation poorly. Now, with this out of the way, I would like you to know the person who I was mentioning in the story above is an individual known as Apharax. You might know him, you might not. Ever since this situation, he has held an 8-month long grudge against me for removing his towers from my game, and confronting him in an emotional and irrational mindset, which is not how I usually act. He has used our confrontation as a basis to make assumptions of my character and characterize me as a person, which is an unfair characterization to make to someone you were never friends with nor ever knew. So why do I bring him up today? Well, this video is meant to act as a public defense regarding some of the assumptions he has made over 8 months regarding my character, and to go more in detail and give him more information regarding why I acted the way I did, as a way to get in contact with him to make amends and squash the beef. I do not like having or making enemies with anyone in general, and honestly, I would love to be able to restart from scratch rather than continuing to have any possible grudges as possibly. I see feeding into irrational anger and grudges to not be healthy for yourself or others. Another thing I would like to bring up is my side throughout the 8 months we've had this beef. Starting sometime in the middle of October, I have decided to stop caring about Aphrax, and as such, I didn't do anything in response to the document or anything in that matter. I thought after I saw his apology regarding the document that he might just move on and go on to different things. However, I see that this prediction was wrong. For 6 months, I have not talked about him publicly or made comments regarding his characters, even when discussion was brought up, and I could have easily said stuff regarding that. I only broke that recently when he was brought up in Italock, which is a server I am no longer in, and confusion brought up recently by someone who saw comments he made regarding me and was questioning why he was calling me that. Normally, when it comes to stuff said against me, I do try to understand the other side and make them seem reasonable, which is why I worded the introduction the way I did. However, the thing about Aphrax is that he isn't a reliable source due to a clear lack of emotional intelligence he has. Aphrax is a person who is smart, and before continuing my point, I would like to say that this guy is talented, smart, and assuming he can get his act together later in life, he can be really successful if he takes his healthy and good traits and roll with them. However, as of right now, he lacks a clear sense of emotional intelligence and maturity, which can explain why he's held an 8 month long grudge against me. From what I've seen, my characterization of his character and my general opinion, do not take this as an absolute fact, is that he is someone who severely lacks empathy and a general understanding of a lot of things due to the way he's grown up. Something I would like to bring up is his politics. Now, this isn't going to be a video discussing whether or not his politics are bad or anything like that, but this is a discussion why it's weird for someone who mainly plays Roblox and has a Roblox audience to be highly political. I don't know if you're aware, but Roblox is a platform that is specifically against involving politics within the platform. Though I'm not bringing this up because of that. Absolutely not. I believe he has taken stuff he's seen from people acting in political spaces, and he assumes he can use that in Ito and be successful. I believe he is under the impression that whenever he has beef with someone, the only way to deal with that is spreading stuff against the other person and making enemies with them. Now, I don't know if you understand this, but Avarex, making enemies with people will only get you so far in a niche community. If you're seen as someone who refuses to make amends with people and holds grudges, that will only hurt you. Now, I'm not saying you have to apologize to others or do anything like that, but I'm telling you that you will probably be less successful the more enemies you make. After all, there is a reason you were included on Etolock, and from my time being in that server, I can definitely sense a It part of it was the fact that you made a lot of enemies inside of Ito. Now, I'm not going to speak on behalf of the people there or that server, but I could pick up that making enemies with the people did not help you in that regard. Now, with that said, I would like to go more into detail on my side of the story and more details regarding why I acted the way I did and other stuff leading to what happened. I do want to say this: do not take this part of the video of me making excuses or sympathy baiting for what I've done. I was in the wrong acting this way, the way I did, and I take full accountability for the way I acted back then. Since this incident, I've been working on myself and I have tried and will continue trying to not do something like that ever again. I made a mistake and I promise that I have done the best that I could to learn from it. Before I start, I would like to show screenshots of what I have directly from our DMs. This includes every single message we sent, every message regarding um, stuff from the day that the removal happened, and just stuff like that. This I would advise you to pause the video and look at what is on the screen and make your own opinions and conclusions prior to my explanation on my side. Now, for some basic details prior to why I removed his towers. I must explain some stuff that happened on the day I decided to do this. In private, there was something that happened inside of a friend group that led me to make a tough decision, and ultimately on that day, I have decided to fully cut off a friend I knew of multiple years. Now, for the exact reason and such, I will not go into it as it was a fully private matter and what happened will remain private. Usually, when it comes to cutting people off, this is not something I take lightly or do easily, but I was rushed to make a decision, and as such, it affected me heavily. With this happening, the friend I decided to cut off wanted their towers removed from my game, and as such, that is what happened. Now you might ask, where does Aetherux come up at all during this? Well, one of my friends at the time mentioned Aetherux and told me stuff regarding him. With this source, I decided that I would also remove his towers alongside the friend's towers. Now I want to say, doing this was a mistake, as I had to group up 5 towers which were being removed for completely different reasons and include them all in one announcement, which I shouldn't have done. In hindsight, I should have told Aetherux that I did not want to have his towers in my game anymore. I also you may ask, why would I blindly do this to someone? Well, from my perspective and what I've seen regarding Aetherux prior to this, I didn't view him in the highest of light. He had an argument within my server, and as someone who didn't know him, looking at the stuff he said didn't give me the highest impression of him as a person. Does this justify doing this? No. Even though the reasoning against him was strong, I should have had a civil conversation and heard his side prior to making a decision, regardless of the stuff he said. Though generally, I do not think even if I had a discussion with him, that would have changed my decision in the slightest. I think regardless of what he was going to say, I think regardless what was said, I probably would have still wanted his towers removed from my game. I believe I just could have handled this better. Now, when he noticed his towers were removed, he complained about it in public chats. Around this time, since I removed his towers from the game, I realized I'd forgotten to remove his contributor, and as such, as he was speaking, it was removed as a role he had. Around this time, he left the server and began attacking me and making statements regarding me and my character in his server. I quickly caught wind of this and as such confronted him. During this confrontation, I was emotional and irrational, still not being over me cutting off the friend I mentioned earlier, and as such, I had made emotional statements towards him rather than logical statements in the heat of a moment. As such, I handled the situation really poorly. Yet again, in hindsight, I wish that I didn't confront him at the time and rather take what he had to say and then talk to him about it later. A thing you might not know about me is that I can act highly emotional at times. Now, this might be a surprise to most of you, especially Aferox, as yet again, he does not know me as a person, and as such, would not know how emotional I was being when talking to him. As such, he has ran this as an impression of who I am when this is simply not true. I promise you there's more to me than this, and you would be able to see that if you talk to me. Though ultimately, I do take myself some fault for giving someone like Aferox such a horrible experience and impression of me as a person. I do wish I could go back and acted differently and handled things in a way where we didn't have to be enemies and generally made amends a while back. And honestly, the goal of this video isn't meant to throw hate at Aferox or anything in that regard. I do not like doing that to people even when it can be easy to do so. I just like giving people bad impressions of me and having enemies when I find it beneficial to just make amends and drop the hate. This is also not a defense of Aferox or anything he has said. I do not know Aferox as a person, and as such, I do not want to say stuff in regards to his character without stating it is clearly an assumption. He's not the type of person I would like to be friends with, nor is he someone I would like to talk to after dropping the beef. This video acts as a public defense of the stuff he said about me publicly and an offer to make amends to squash the beef permanently and move on with our lives. You may ask me why I haven't tried contacting him or trying to make amends when you're talking about doing so now. Ultimately, when it comes to him, I did not trust him in the past to want or try to make amends. Even though I have yet to block him once or at all on Discord, I currently do not trust that he will care for any apology I will make for him, nor will he keep our private sentiments private if I do reach out to him first. The thing about him is that even to this day, I have not blocked him once or and I have left a line of communication open regardless of the stuff I said in regards to him. I was never against making amends and then moving on. I could take some fault about how I've tried to apologize, as I've never done so directly due to people's advice against doing so. Instead of trying to apologize to him directly, I used someone else who he was friends at the time to make amends, and I acknowledge now that I probably should have tried to talk to him directly instead. Normally, I wouldn't really talk about something like this in a video, but I do want to keep it in to show that I'm not perfect. As as I want to be clear and understandable as possible, I'm intentionally making myself vulnerable by announcing mistakes I made and how I could have done better, as I do want to make amends. I do want to say that I am making this video of my own accord, and generally I want this to show that I want to squash any beef I have with anyone in general prior to leaving a space, even if it could be easier to remain enemies in this time and space. I also want to say that this video will be taken down if we can finally make amends and agree to pass any grudges we have towards each other. This video is a public defense about stuff said about me publicly, but if we have a private discussion where we can resolve our beef privately, I'll make an update video as such. I do want to state I'm not doing this for any gain other than to finally just squash beef, as I do not have anything to really gain by making amends other than showing that I truly do not want to be mislabeled as someone I am not. Anyway, with that out of the way, I would like to end this video as I feel like it has gone on for way too long, and generally, I do not have anything to say in regards to the situation other than this. I do not want to milk the situation any longer than it needs to be, and generally, I do not want to cause harassment or hatred to be spread, as that is not something I like to see my community do. I've been trying to avoid drama and stuff similar to this, as I believe it is not beneficial to anyone and not something I like being a part of. Though, if things go sour, I will make a second video only if it is necessary. But with that out of the way, I do want to thank everyone who took the time to watch this video. This isn't the type of video I normally upload, so I hope it goes over well. And, and also, thank you to everyone who has supported me and stuck by me for all of this time. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your support, and I hope you guys remain respectful in the comments below in regards to the situation. With that, I'm signing off. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.